and I saw Jesus. I can't describe it, but I saw him, the Father and the Holy Spirit, as one, but in one shape of a body. And it was this glowing, warm light. And he gave me a hug and he said, welcome home. And when he gave me this hug, I just felt so loved. It was overwhelming, but it was, you know how like when you feel God's presence now, sometimes it's overwhelming. It was that overwhelming, but I was able to receive all of it. I can't describe it. I just all at once received all the love of God. And I just was warmed by his hug, and I could feel his arms around me. And it was so beautiful. And I went into this massive home, and it was like it was a temple. And I went inside this temple, and there was like a waiting chamber that everybody was at. And there was these people walking around with trays, and they were serving wine and bread. And everybody was there. They were talking, having a great time. And I remember I just ran upstairs to this top balcony, and I looked out of this window, and with all my heart, I just only cared about how many people were on that path and were coming to where I went. And all I could see was people coming up the river. They got so close to the kingdom, and then they left. They just left and went off to some trees elsewhere. And I saw the people go to the right, they left, to the left. Some people jumped into the river at the very end, some in the middle. And I just knew that these were people on their way to heaven. And some people lost their faith and they went off into the wilderness of the world. And I remember it hurt so bad. And all I could think of was how much more I could have done. It's not regret. It's not like sorrow. I just knew if I only knew more about this, I would have given more. And so again, it wasn't like a sorrowful thing, but just knowing that all I could do was now just wait. And I did all that I did in my life. And that was the end of my life. And I just remember feeling so heavy hearted about the fact that people were on this path and then they left and they forsook their salvation. And so I woke up from that dream. And so I woke up from this dream and I knew that God took me to heaven. And the thing is that exact whole scenario is described in Ezekiel from like chapter 40 to the end of the book. But the thing is I had only read that chapter and those chapters that detailed out maybe twice, but for sure one time on my first read through of the word. And the way that the Bible describes how the temple looks in Ezekiel, the new temple, is exactly how I saw it. The river, it's described in Ezekiel how it starts off big and then it gets shallower and shallower and shallower as you get closer. And the word also, it says that there's a prince that will enter in from the east gate, and that was Jesus Christ at the east gate. It describes how there's trees on the river and that these trees have fruit and healing and all these different things. And it was exactly what I had seen. And I remember my mind was so blown about that because I just knew I didn't know that part of the word that well.